Welcome back to another video. This one talks about different forms a quadratic function can be written out as. We're familiar with this one, which is the standard form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. But we also have the vertex form of the equation, which is y equals a x minus h squared plus k, where h and k are the coordinates of the vertex. The previous video, part 1, explains what the vertex is. If you haven't yet done so, you can check that video out. But really, this h value and this k value becomes your vertex. So we can have our vertex form, and it's easy to identify our coordinates of the vertex. So we have y equals 7, x minus 3 squared plus 8. We take that 3 out, and we take that 8 out, and that will be your coordinates for your vertex. Alright, so 8, 3, 8. That's the coordinates of your vertex. So this 3 represents your x value, this 8 represents your y value. Now this 7 also represents your a value. It's positive 7 more than 0, so we know it's going to face upward, and the vertex or the turning point will be at this point, 3, 8. Let's look at the next example. We have y equals negative 1 over 2x, x 1 over 2x plus 7 squared plus 3 over 4. So again, we pull these two values out, and that will be our answer. So I'm going to have negative 7, and I'm going to have 3 over 4. This represents my x, this represents my y. Now this here is negative 1 over 2, that's less than 0, so we know it is going to face downwards. So my parabola will face downward, and the vertex will be at the point negative 7, 3 over 4. Now you may be wondering, why do I have negative and in parentheses as positive? Well, the formula is x minus h. But here in my equation is x plus h. So therefore, your h value should be negative, so that the negative with the negative in the formula will simplify to give you positive. So a rule of thumb is, if it's positive here, then your h will be negative. Similarly, in the previous example, if it is negative in parentheses, then you know your h will be positive. All right. Now, what if you have the standard form and you need to change it to the vertex form? Well, we need to do what is called completing the squares. So I'll guide you as to how we will complete the squares for this equation. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to take that negative 7 and bring it over to my y. I'm crossing the equal sign, so I'm going to change signs. So instead of negative 7, it's going to be plus 7. And what remains will be x squared plus 10x. So that's step 1. The next thing I'm going to do is to take my b value and divide it by 2. So recall, the number in front of your x is your b value. So I'm going to take that 10 and I'm going to divide it by 2. So that gives me 5. So that's step 2. Divide your b value by 2. Now, your third step is to square that number. So I'm going to take 5 and I'm going to square 5, and that will give me 25. Step 3. Okay, so I'm going to continue over on this side. Now, I'm going to take 25 and add it to either side of my equation. So remember, I had y plus 7 equals x squared plus 10x. So now I'm going to take 25 and add it to both sides. So y plus 7 plus 25, and then have x squared plus 10x plus 25. Then I would do a little bit of simplification. So 7 and 25, that gives me 32. And then on my other side, let me just rewrite it, and then I'm going to write the next step on another line. So now what I'm going to do is to factorize my equation here. So I'm going to have x plus 5 squared. So I'm going to take my first term, I'm going to take the square root of my second term, put it in parentheses, and square that. Let's see if we're going to get back this thing, x squared, and then we do 2 by x, that's 2x, by 5 gives us 10x, and then I square 5, which gives me 25. All right, so all you need to do when you factorizing is to, I'm going to redo that. I'm going to write my first term, which is x, and then I'm going to write the square root of my second term, which is 5, and I put that in parentheses, squared. So I have y plus 32 equals x plus 5 squared. Now my last step is to subtract 32 from both sides. So I'm left with y on this side, and I'm going to have x plus 5 squared minus 32. And there I have the equation in vertex form. So my vertex is -5, -32. So let's look at another example. Again, I'm going to start with removing my c value, bring it over next to my y. So I have y subtract 7 is equal to 3x squared minus 6x. Now, if you look carefully, you would see that I have 3 as my a value. When we're factorizing, we would try to get our a value to be 1. So what I'm going to do is just divide by 3 here. And I'm going to divide by 3 over here. So I'm going to simplify it like this. 1/3 y minus 7. And then the 3's will cancel, so I'm left with x squared. And 6 divided by 3, that's -2x. So now my coefficient is 1. So I'm going to take my b value, which is -2, and divide by 2. That gives me -1. All right, the next step is for me to square that -1. So that gives me +1. All right, so from there, I'm going to rewrite my equation. 1/3 y minus 7 is equal to x squared minus 2x. And I'm going to add 1. I forgot to add 1 on this side here. So let me just add that 1 here. So add 1 equals x squared minus 2x plus 1. So I'm going to factorize my right hand side. Again, I take my first term, x, the square root of my second term, which is 1, and then because of that negative sign here, I'm going to keep that negative, and I'm going to square that. So if I expand this thing here, I'm going to get this up here. Okay, so what will we have on the left hand side? Well, I have 1/3 y, and I have -7 on 3 plus 1, and that will give me -4 on 3. All right, now this here, let me use a different ink. So I'm going to multiply this by 3, and then I'm going to multiply the other side by 3. So this gives me y minus 4 is equal to 3 x minus 1 squared. And then the final step is to add 4 to both sides. So I have 3x minus 1 squared plus